have an entire playlist, a romance playlist where I've recommended tons of romance books. I'll link it in the description. You can go and check it out. And in this video, I'm going to be recommending more romance books: fantasy romance, YA romance, non-spicy romance, spicy romance, all of the romance book recommendations that I have since I made the last romance book recommendation video, because romance is definitely one of my most favorite genres. Sometimes I just read it to clear my palate, get in a good mood after reading an intense book, and I'm so excited to share all of these recommendations with you guys. I know you have been looking forward to it, so take your popcorn or all of your beverages, or I don't know, your homework, and let's talk about some romance book recommendations. Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing very nice. I'm sending a lot of hugs and positivity to all of you. Hi, if you're new, welcome to the channel. I really hope you enjoy the content. If you do, please do consider subscribing. We are first going to start with adult romance recommendations. Some of them are steamy and spicy, some of them aren't, and I'll let you know which ones are which. Starting with an Indian desi romance that I recently discovered, set with the backdrop of a wedding and Navratri and all of the festivities that we enjoy in our desi culture. Mix it with enemies to lovers, slow burn romance, a lot of steam and tension, and then you get this book. It is one of my most favorite stories ever. I enjoyed it so much. Usually I stay away from desi romance books because they are too much like movies, and when I'm reading a romance book I want that booky feeling, but this one gave me those bookish vibes. The book is It Happened One Night by Mishti Misheri. I really hope I'm taking the name right. This is the story of Taran and Meena, who have met each other under really weird circumstances. They both have secrets from each other, and just look at that cover. One has a gun in hand, the other has a knife, and it's literally cut throat romance, and that is exactly what is translated into a beautiful, steamy, amazing romance story within the entire book. Now, I love this book so much that I can't wait for it to be traditionally published, because this book deserves that. The only issue I have with the book is the editing or some of the errors here and there, so when you do get the book, that may be a little off-putting, but I think that the story is completely worth it. I enjoyed every minute of it. I giggled so much every single time Taran or Meena are thinking about each other and you get to see their inner dialogue. I'm like, it is steamy and it is an adult romance, and I really hope you enjoy it. Next, we have a not so steamy romance by an author who has written a YA romance novels that lives rent-free in my mind. I think about it so many times because it is one of the best YA romances I had read, and then I read this one, and even though it's not the best adult romances I've ever read, I sometimes just see myself thinking about them just because of the chemistry that they had. It was so palpable in all of their conversations and the banter that they had. I read it a long time ago, but I don't know how many times I've recommended it. All I know is that I have not recommended it enough, and the book is The Love Wager by Lynn Painter, who's the author of Better Than the Movies. This is the story of Jack and Hallie, who decide that they're not very good for each other, but they become really good friends, and they realize they can be each other's wing person, wingman and wing woman, and they start finding other partners, and they have a love wager going on as to who is going to find the partner for the other one first. It's such a cute friends to lovers. I think it's my favorite adult friends to lovers book because their friendship and their chemistry, even with their friendship, is off the charts, and after that when they come together, I'm just like, oh my god. I think this is the first friends to lovers adult romance book that I have ever read, and it made me interested in the genre. Before this book I was a complete enemies to lovers romance lover, but after this I'm like, maybe I would like to give more friends to lovers a shot. If you know more books that is friends to lovers adult romance, put in the comments. I would love to read it. Next, we have a long one, a spicy one. This is the story of Julian and Dahlia, who have been away from their town for a long time, and when they were here the last time, very bad things had happened. It had really traumatized them, and even their relationship, they were childhood friends, but it turned really sour, and so they have always avoided each other. But now, due to something, they have come back in town, they cross each other's path, and you see their chemistry and their romance, how it was in the past, how it is in the present, and what the future is. Mix that with a man who is so self-aware, who is so ready to grow for a woman that he loves, and the female main character who yet again is so self-aware, knows what her boundaries are but is also very aware of her feelings and accepts them as they are instead of all being like, oh no, I don't really love him. The book is Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. It's a thick book and I would not recommend it if it was not worth it. It does get a little repetitive after a certain point, but I personally believe that your healing journey, especially when it's a second chance romance, and this is a second chance romance, you really have to build up winning the person back properly. The reason why they broke up in the past has to be built up properly. The healing journey has to be built up properly. Everything has to be built up properly and emotionally, otherwise it feels very rushed. That is one of my biggest grievances with any second chance romance, which is why second chance romances are not my favorite romance tropes. But this one did it so well because the reason they broke up was so valid, and how they get back together is also so valid. The two characters are so enjoyable that I did not even feel like, oh no, like now I'm getting bored. I was reading it on a train and there were so many points where I was giggling, where I was like, oh my god, I cannot believe he just said that. I cannot believe he thinks like that about her. That is so adorable and cute. At the time when I was reading it, I enjoyed it so much, and that's there. But after that also, I've read so many romance novels, and sometimes I think about this, or even Final Offer by the same author, and I think if there's any other romance novel that has made me feel the way these characters did, and I can't think of anyone. I mean, there are so many other characters that have made me feel a different way, maybe a better way, but none like that. Even though it talks about serious topics, it is nowhere near serious. It is a light-hearted read that you will have fun with. Next, we have a movie that I want to say is based on one movie, but it's actually based on two movies because that is what my history with this story is. One, we have Harry Met Sally, which is the Hollywood movie which I had not watched till very recently. The second movie is Hum Tum, which I watched when I was a kid, and I think that is when my obsession with enemies to lovers started, because these two people really cannot stand each other in the beginning, and then you see the progress of how they fall in love, and then there's so much tension. Hum Tum is one of my most favorite movies ever, even though now that I watch it as a grown-up, I'm just like, do I really like that? But it really satisfies the teenager, the child in me. Now this book is based on Harry Met Sally, and Hum Tum is also based on Harry Met Sally. Therefore, this book is based on Hum Tum. Another additional point was the cover. That was really nice. And the fact that I got to read it in the winter time. The book is You Again by Kate Goldbeck, which is a story of these two people that meet by accident. They're both in a relationship with the same woman. That is how disastrous their first meet is. But then you see them meeting over the years in their different situations, and you see how they cannot stand each other, and then you see the slow burn. The slow burn in this book is gold, and the vibes gold. I cannot wait to actually reread it this winter because Hum Tum is my comfort movie. So now this is going to be my comfort book. It doesn't have intense amount of spice, but there are mentions here and there. I so want to tell you everything about this book, but I'm not going to. Me saying or admitting that this book has romance in it itself is like huge. I don't want to admit that this book has romance. I want you to be surprised when you read this book. But it's outlandish, it can be cheesy, but it's beautiful. And mix that with Andre Aciman's writing, who is the author of Call Me By Your Name. His writing is impeccable, immaculate. He does not waste one word in his book. Every single word he writes means something. It's useful to the story, and that's exactly what has happened in this book. It's beautiful. The setting is amazing. If you want to read a book on vacation, or you feel like you are on vacation, you can read this book. The book is The Gentleman from Peru by Andre Aciman, where a group of friends have gone to Peru and they are just enjoying themselves when they see a gentleman from Peru. He is always alone. He is always just sitting in a corner enjoying himself. But then this group of friends invite him over to their table one day, and that day onwards, this beautiful friendship between the gentleman of Peru and the friends start, and you get to experience it all. Their description of the places that these people live in is literally gorgeous. The love that stands the test of time. It's a story that won't leave your mind. It's really short, but it's very impactful. It has no spice in it at all, and I think that even if you are a teenager, you can read it. Like if you're 16 plus, because there are no gory or adult themes in it. Next book lies in the gray area for me. I read this in the beginning of the year and I still don't know how I feel about it. It actually really made me think a lot about love, what love can mean to other people, the kinds of love that there are, and how love can fall in the gray space. And now I don't know if that was the intention of the author, because if that was her intention, then she won. You can see that in the book, but so many parts of it still made me icky and it won't sit well with all of you. So just do a little bit of research before you buy this book. The book is The Light We Lost by Jill Santopolo. Look at all of those annotations. That's because it made me think so much. I have a question here completely out of context. Would she be this annoyed if Gabe planned it without her? Does the effort mean nothing? Is it her as a person that doesn't like it, or the person she's with, the amount of love? And I know, again, out of context it makes no sense, but I just had so many questions like this throughout the book, and the writing was beautiful. The quotations are gorgeous, and all of that really made me like the book a lot. And I even now still think about the story. There are just some morally gray areas that I'm just like, I don't think you should be doing that, because she's with someone but she's thinking about somebody. Now I don't know if that counts as cheating or not, things like that. But if you like good writing style, if you want to see how love can be in the gray area, if you want an intimate story, then this is your book. It does not have spice at all, so not that sort of intimacy. It is more emotional intimacy. After all of that confusion and intensity, I have a very chill, nice time, once again vacation-y vibes romance novel for you. It is a rom-com. It is by an author who has given me giggly feelings in the past, and this one by far is my favorite book by her. The book is The Catch by Amy Leah, who is also the author of X's and O's and Set on You. This one is the story of a fashion influencer who is not really making a lot of money, but she has to take care of her brother, and so when she's invited for a campaign in a different country or a different city, she just takes it because the money is money, and she goes over there. But once she reaches there, she comes to know, oh, I have come 1 week earlier, so now she has to stay in some other place. That some other place is not renovated fully, and that is where she meets the main male character. My only issue with the book, which I've said so many times now, is the difference between them not even knowing each other and not understanding each other at all to them falling in love with each other. The bridge is not gapped well, but that does not take away from the giggly feelings that I got from the amazing writing of a rom-com, from discussing some really important issues within her book, along with giving us such a fun time. And the romance that is there is beautiful, so I highly recommend this one. It's a steamy one, so only adults can read it. This video would be incomplete without this next author. This is her latest release this year, and when it comes to the romance, it eats. The book is Funny Story by Emily Henry. This is the story of two people who are going through a breakup, and their exes are now together and about to get married. So these two people do not know what to do. Daphne, our main female character, also does not have a place to live because she used to live with her boyfriend or fiance, to be husband. So for some time she moves in with Miles, and they're both so depressed, but they have both gone through the same thing, so they become each other's best friend, and that evolves into romance. Fake relationship, slow burn, the friendship, the quotes, all amazing things. Though I will say that this is not the best Emily Henry book. I think I gave it 3.5 or 4 stars because the third act conflict part of it, where two people just fight apparently for no reason, that is what happened in this book. They just fight for absolutely no reason. I don't understand it, but every part of it, before the fight happens, after the fight happens, is so amazing. And you also get to see how their past, their even childhood, how they have seen their parents' relationship, how all of that affects their relationship with their partner. All of that is acknowledged within it. They both are ready to work on themselves. They both are ready to accept each other the way they are and help each other grow, and it's beautiful. This book doesn't talk about very deep topics. For example, Happy Place was like really intense. It actually made me sad at certain points because of how real it got. This one is not like that. It also does have spice. This is the spiciest book of Emily Henry. Next we have a book by Ali Hazelwood, her latest book. My only complaint with it is that it is too spicy, and I am not a fan of Ali Hazelwood spice. But if you like Ali Hazelwood spice and you want to read really spicy books with amazing emotionally complex characters, then this is your book. book. The book is Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. I read it during a thunderstorm and it was the best vibes ever. It's the story of two people who do not want to get into a relationship and they do not know how to express how they feel because of their past, because of their childhood, but they cross each other's path. The amount of vulnerability and just how tender they are with each other, how Eli is with her, how he just knows what she needs is gold. I think one thing that makes romance novels amazing, which I think is also fictional, and especially Ali Hazelwood men, is that they just know what their partner needs and they are there to step up and give it to her. That is exactly what happens in this. I love stories where two people feel like they don't deserve love and that, oh, they can never be together because they don't deserve a good relationship, but then they heal with each other. That's what happens in this book. It can be classified as an erotica with the amount of spice that it has in it, but the spice is relevant to the story. I do still think that they should have reduced it a little bit, but it is relevant to the story. My books are falling. Next up, we have two books by one of my recent favorite authors. First up, we have The 7-Year Slip, and secondly, we have a novel love story. You can just see the annotations on 7-Year Slip and know that I am actually obsessed with this book. I gave it 5 stars, and I don't just give 5 stars to romance novels just like that, okay? It has to be amazing. This book reminded me of Just Like Heaven, which is my comfort teenage movie, and I think the teenager in me also felt so satisfied. It is magical, it is beautifully written, the characters are amazing. It's the story of an apartment that travels 7 years in time. Our main female character meets our main male character over there. It has magical realism in it with the time travel, but it does not go deep into the time travel side of it. Highly recommended. It does not have any spice in it as far as I remember, so enjoy it. It is an adult romance, but if you're 15-16 plus, I think you can still read it because it's just so nice. The other book I don't like so much. This is the story of our main female character stumbling upon into her favorite small town romance novel, Town. Did I say that right? I thought that this would be more of a love story because it says a novel love story and there is a lot of love going on, but the romance in this between the two characters was not very built, at least for me, that properly, so I did not enjoy it. I think that if you like small town romances and you have multiple romance subplots and the romance subplot of the two main characters can be a subplot instead of the main plot for you, then I think you'll enjoy this book a lot. It will be really cozy. It will wisp you right out of reality and turn your brain off. It's adorable and it's cute. It does have spice in it. Next is one of my most favorite rom-coms ever. This and You Again lives rent-free in my mind. This is the story of a woman that has to shift to an apartment, so she's finding for a cheap one because she doesn't have a lot of money, and this one apartment is like insanely cheap, and when she goes over there, the man that she has to live with is insanely gorgeous. Oh my god, what is going on? Only to discover after some time that the man, her roommate, is a vampire. The book is My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine. I love vampire books. Put vampires into anything and I will be obsessed with it. That is already a fact, but this vampire in particular is the most adorable vampire ever. The reason I love vampires is because they're brooding and they're hot and they're like all the time, and then they all get all smooshy for the woman that they love. But this one is golden retriever energy dressed in black. There's so much old school romance writing because the vampire is old, so when he talks in the old Victorian era English, and it's so much fun to read, and there is no darkness, there is no moment of sadness or despair, there is no stress, there's just tension and cuteness and adorableness, just the best time ever. If you want a cute rom-com just to have fun, and you cannot miss out on this book. It's my most favorite book ever. Next, we have a book that I recently read, and the characters in this book are 15 and 17, but I don't think that it is YA fiction. I think that it is completely adult. It has very intense topics, so please read the trigger warnings before you get into it. It is a brick of a book, but it is so worth it. It has stolen my heart. The characters Johnny and Shannon live in my brain, and so many characters live in my brain rent free. Oh my god. The book is Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. This is a story of Johnny, who is obsessed with his game. He thinks about nothing else in his life, and Shannon, who has a very difficult family life going on, and she has also been bullied in her school, so now she has to change schools and she goes to Tommen. That's where Johnny and Shannon cross each other's path, and the rest is history. This is just part 1. I have not read part 2, book 2 of this series, and I'm warning you beforehand because nobody did. This heart on the cover will be your heart. So if you want to read a tragic and cry your eyes out, maybe go numb, and this is your book. The reason I think it is not YA is because there's so much cussing going on in this book, and that is one thing I don't like about it. I wish there wasn't so much cussing, but I just completely skipped on it because of how much I love the book, because I just can't stop thinking about these two characters. 800 pages of them is gold, and it's not enough, and I'm so happy there's book 2 to be read, so I highly recommend it. It's more of a character study. There's very less plot going on, so if you like character driven books, you will enjoy this book a lot. Do not go into it thinking you're going into a rom-com or you're going into a plot driven story. No, you're going into a very intense world with these very amazing characters, and you get to know more and more and more about them. In the end, with the adult romances, we have another book that I recently read that I think about a lot. All of these books, I think about them a lot. I really love them. That's why I'm recommending them to you guys. The book is What If You and Me by Ronnie Lauren, which is the story of Andy, who has had something really tragic happen in her past that has given her trust issues, and now she's scared and anxious about everything, and very reasonably so, because when I read it, I totally got what she's talking about. And then we have our main male character, Hill Dawson, who used to be a firefighter, but he lost his legs in an accident. He did not lose his legs, he got an injury in his legs, and because of that he cannot be a firefighter anymore. But all he wants to do is be this good person, be a firefighter, be a hero. One day when there is some sort of stuff happening at Andy's place, Hill thinks that she needs help, so he goes over there, and that's how they meet each other. These are also two characters with a lot of trauma and tragedy in their life, but this book is really light and very fun to read. It has spice in it, it's very tastefully done, but it's not the kind of book where they're like, oh my god, I don't deserve love, oh my god, I can't be with anybody. The amount of clarity both these characters have on how they have a tragic past, but you know what, I'm ready to go on a journey of healing myself with you, and both of them are so on page about that. It's amazing. I love it when two people are very upfront that yes, their past is affecting them, but they're not going to let their past hold themselves back from something that can be beautiful. That is exactly what happens in this book. Hill Dawson is awesome. The way he handles Andy whenever she's anxious, when she's feeling unsafe, it's gold. If you are an anxious girly, if you feel scared of even going out in the world, because the world is a scary place, because it is, Hill Dawson is going to be the man of your dreams. Moving on to YA romances. The next book is two love stories going on at the same time with the backdrop of World War I, and we have Aphrodite, a Greek goddess, telling us the story during the World War. It's a historical romance with elements of Greek mythology in it, and it's one of the most beautiful books I've ever read. It's like a 6-star read. I love it so much, and I am just so happy that it's a YA romance. One, because I did not find a YA romance, a good YA romance, in such a long time, and two, even if you're a teenager, 13, 14 plus, you can actually read this book, and that makes me so happy. Though it does have very triggering heavy topics, so please do research for the trigger warnings before you get into the book. We have Lovely War by Julie Berry. It's the story of Hazel, James, Aubrey, and Colette. That's all I'm going to tell you. That's also all that is there in the back of the book, and everything that I've already told you. Apart from that, you can go into the book blind. The writing is beautiful. There are tons of highlighted parts that I have in this book. It's thick, but it doesn't read like a thick book because it's so easy to read. The language is so easy to comprehend, and this book is not about tension, and it's not about slow burn, even though there is slow burn in it, but it's not the stressful, tensiony slow burn. It's about yearning, it's about vulnerability, it's about innocence, it's about being tender with each other, and what pure love means, the purity in love. And I also love parts where Aphrodite is telling the story, the Greek gods part of it. Even if you've never read Greek mythology before, you can read it because you do come to know who these gods are. We have another book, the only YA romance Ali Hazelwood has written, but it's one of my favorite YA romances. It does have parts in it that feels like an adult romance, like those parts shouldn't be there in the book, but I again chose to just like not see that because the story apart from that is so beautiful. And I did cry in like 2-3 parts of it just because of how innocent and cute and beautiful it is, and how emotional and vulnerable it is, and that is very important to me. The book is Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. It's a story of Mallory and Nolan, who are, Mallory is very good at chess, but she is a nobody currently, and Nolan also is this professional chess player who is the best. But when they cross each other's path, Mallory takes him down like a child in the chess game, and he's like, whoa, who is this person? But there are so many things going on in Mallory's house because of which she feels like she can't really pay attention to chess right now. So you see her journey of what happens in her house. The romance feels like a subplot, but it was the perfect amount of romance for me because I knew so much about both the characters that whenever the romance parts came into play, I enjoyed it so much. And their romance also has so much slow burn in it. I think after enemies to lovers, one of my most favorite tropes is slow burn. Next up we have If Only I Had Told Her by Laura Nowlin, which is the second part of If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nowlin, which is the story of Finn and Autumn, who are in high school and they like each other, and it's also friends to lovers YA romance. This is whatever happened in the first book from a different perspective, and what happens after whatever has happened in that is exactly what part 2 of a book means. It has 3 different perspectives going on, and for me personally it was actually really beautiful. I enjoyed it a lot. I feel like if I had read it some time back, I would have been very disappointed, but I had seen so many reviews of people talking about what it actually has that element of disappointment was taken away from me, which is why I love this book. In the end, in YA romances, I know that is just 4 books, you guys, but I did tell you what couple of books you can read from adult romances. I'm not able to find good YA romances. If you have any recommendations, leave it in the comments. I will definitely buy it and read it. But the last one that I have that I don't highly recommend, but it was a personal preference, maybe you will enjoy it, is The Getaway List by Emma Lord, which is the story of Riley, who has graduated from high school and now she wants to do something crazy, and she remembers the getaway list that she has made with her best friend who has been living in New York since 3 years. So she just decides to drop everything, go to New York and get on this getaway list and do things on the list. She goes for 1 day, but her trip is extended because of a few reasons. The reason I say it's not my favorite is because I think it was very repetitive, and Riley was a little bit of a brat for me. I did not enjoy her character a lot. However, I see huge potential in the book, and I do think that a lot of people, you guys, may enjoy it. So if you like the premise of it, and if you want a good cute YA romance of a girl evolving and at the same time some romance going on, I think you'll enjoy this book a lot. In the end, we have all of the fantasy romances, most of which are enemies to lovers, starting with Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. Fourth Wing is the story of Violet, who has always wanted to be a scribe, but her mother forces her to go to the Fourth Wing and become a rider. A rider rides dragons, and the dragon chooses you. Now Violet has not even trained at all to be a rider, so she knows that one day in the training camp and she's going to be dead. That's just how cutthroat the exams are. It has enemies to lovers, which is sizzling. It is hot, there's spice in it, and it's very fast paced. There's a lot of adrenaline going on, there are dragons involved. It's a beautiful story. Not the best fantasy book ever, but really good nonetheless. And then we have the second part of it, Iron Flame, which I'm not going to talk a lot about, except that it was just not as good as Fourth Wing, but it is the second part in the series. What are you gonna do? Not read it? Next we have Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mather. This is the story of a girl who just goes into the woods because she's trying to think some thoughts, but over there she comes across a person who hires her and she becomes the assistant to a villain. I am going to be a little vague on the details about this book because honestly I don't remember much of it. I just read it so fast, I think for a 24-hour readathon, so I do have to reread it, but I do remember giggling a lot because this book is funny, and it does have a second part coming for it, which is Apprentice to the Villain. It has so many gruesome things going on, but it's also so much fun, and it does have two perspectives of the villain and of Evie, our main female character, and that is just gold. Whenever I was in the villain's perspective, I remember giggling so much because of how he sees her and how she sees him. It's just a really fun time. Next up, we have the ACOTAR series, which I have not finished, but I have read the first 2 books, and I am basically obsessed, like literally obsessed with Reese and Farah. I've talked about the series a lot, so I'm not going to talk much about it. All I'm going to tell you is that it is so worth it to actually read it. I did not enjoy the first book a lot, so I was getting irritated a little bit, but then the second book is pure gold. Enemies to lovers with a fantasy world that is built with so much detail, it's insane. This too does have a lot of spice. In the end, we have another enemies to lovers, and I just realized that this is YA romance fantasy. That is awesome, because now I have more YA recommendations for you guys. The book is Powerless and Reckless by Lauren Roberts, which is a story of Peyton and Kai. Peyton is an ordinary, Kai is an elite. He's supposed to kill her, she's supposed to hate him, but guess what? They fall in love. Get to see so much of both of them in the second book. The second book lacks plot. That is my complaint with it, but I'm telling you, there is no other series that has done enemies to lovers this well. I am obsessed with it. There is no spice in it. There's intense slow burn in both the books, and it is so much fun. Third book is gonna come in April 2025. Cannot wait. And with that, we come towards the end of the video. I really hope you guys enjoyed the recommendations. I'm actually dead in my throat now, so I'm gonna go. I'll see you guys again next time in some other video. I love you guys so much. Bye.